3 days before Thanksgiving, my daughter called. "Mom, we've decided to keep this year small, just immediate family." I started to respond, but she cut me off. "I mean, Jennifer's family. You understand." I didn't. I'd hosted Thanksgiving in this house for 42 years. Every November, the same table, the same china, my grandmother's pattern, the one with the tiny blue flowers. David used to carve the turkey at the head of the table. After he died 4 years ago, Jennifer took over. Emma, my granddaughter, always sat next to me. We'd make the stuffing together the night before. "Mom, are you there?" "I'm here," I said. My voice sounded strange, flat. "I understand." I didn't understand at all. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of the phone call, the way Jennifer's voice had sounded, tight, rushed, like she wanted to get off the phone. Just immediate family. As if I wasn't family anymore, as if 42 Thanksgivings didn't matter. At 2 in the morning, I gave up on sleep. I went downstairs in my robe, turned on the kitchen light, made coffee I didn't want. The house was so quiet. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the clock on the wall, the same clock that had been there since David and I moved in. I needed something to do, something to keep my hands busy. I started going through the mail I'd been meaning to organize. Bills, mostly, catalogs, a few sympathy cards from church. Mrs. Patterson had passed, and I'd sent flowers. That's when I found it. A bank statement. Not the current one. I'd already filed that. This was from 3 months ago, somehow mixed in with the magazines. My retirement account. The one David and I had built together over 35 years. Every paycheck, we'd put a little away. For this. For when we'd travel, when we'd finally relax. He never got to see retirement. Heart attack at 65, just 3 months after he'd turned in his badge at the county office. I looked at the balance, set my reading glasses higher on my nose, looked again. $125,000. That couldn't be right. The last time I'd checked, when was that? 6 months ago? Maybe longer? The balance had been, I tried to remember, higher, much higher. My hands were shaking slightly as I set down my coffee cup. The mug made a small sound against the counter. I spread the statement out on the kitchen table, smoothed the creases. The paper felt thin under my fingers. There. The previous balance at the top of the quarter, $153,000. And below that, a list of transactions, withdrawals, $3,000, $4,000, $2,500, over and over. Different amounts, but always withdrawals, never deposits. I counted them, 12 withdrawals in 3 months. My chest felt tight. I got up, found the file cabinet in the office, pulled out the older statements, hands still shaking, spread them. Across the table next to my cooling coffee, the pattern went back 18 months, $53,000. Gone. I sat there in the harsh kitchen light, looking at the numbers. 35 years, every paycheck, David's overtime during the recession, my summer tutoring jobs, all those years of being careful, of planning, of saving, gone. And at the bottom of every transaction in small print, authorized by power of attorney, Jennifer Bennett. Jennifer, my daughter. The power of attorney I'd given her 3 years ago, right after David died. "Just in case you need help with the bills, Mom," she'd said. "Just in case something happens." I stared at her name on the paper. Jennifer Bennett. My coffee had gone completely cold. I didn't call anyone that night. I sat at the kitchen table until the sky started to lighten. Those bank statements spread in front of me like evidence at a crime scene. That's what it was, wasn't it? A crime. My own daughter had stolen from me. No, that was too harsh. Jennifer wouldn't steal. There had to be an explanation. But $53,000 doesn't vanish by accident. I'm Carol Bennett, 69 years old. I taught second grade for 34 years at Riverside Elementary, the same school Jennifer attended as a child. I retired 5 years ago, right before David got sick. We'd planned to travel, see the national parks, maybe take that Alaskan cruise we'd always talked about. Then his heart gave out 3 months after his retirement party, and suddenly I was alone in this house. This big, quiet house. Jennifer is my only child, 46 years old, going through her second divorce. She has a daughter, Emma. My granddaughter, 12 years old, sweet as anything. Jennifer lost her job last year. Marketing manager, $85,000 a year, gone when her company downsized. The divorce from Mike has been ugly. Custody battles, lawyers. Emma caught in the middle. I've helped Jennifer before. Of course I have. She's my daughter. Over 25 years, I'd given Jennifer $93,000. $28,000 for college. I took on extra tutoring students for 6 years to cover what the scholarships didn't. $35,000 for her first house down payment when she married Mike. I'd liquidated a CD David, and I had been saving for our own retirement. $12,000 for her divorce attorney last year when things got nasty. $18,000 for Emma's private school over the past 3 years because the public school's asthma protocols weren't good enough. I thought I was helping. I thought I was being a good mother. I thought that's what mothers did, give their children everything they could. But this was different. This wasn't giving. This was taking. 3 years ago, right after David died, Jennifer had suggested I give her power of attorney. "Just in case, Mom," she'd said, "just in case something happens and you can't pay your bills, or if you get sick, I can handle everything for you." It made sense. I was 66, grieving, overwhelmed with David's estate and the funeral bills and the endless paperwork. Jennifer seemed so capable, so organized. She worked in marketing, managed budgets, knew about finances. I'd signed the papers without reading them carefully, without asking an attorney to review them. David would have insisted on a lawyer, but David was gone, and I was tired, and Jennifer was there, and I trusted her. I noticed something about 18 months ago. Jennifer had called, asking about my account numbers. "I need to check on something for you, Mom. Make sure everything's in order." I'd given her the information. Later, I'd felt a small twinge. Shouldn't I be checking my own accounts? But I pushed it away. She was helping. That's what I told myself. She was just helping. 6 months ago, Jennifer mentioned she was overwhelmed. The divorce was getting worse. Mike's attorney was pushing for full custody of Emma. She'd lost her marketing job. I heard her crying on the phone once about Emma's medical bills. The asthma treatments weren't fully covered by her COBRA insurance. I wanted to help more, but I'd already given so much. I told her I'd pay for Emma's next specialist visit, $800. She'd thanked me, her voice thick with tears, but she never asked about that specialist visit again. I'm too trusting. That's my flaw. I taught second graders for 3 decades, 7-year-olds who'd come to me crying about stolen crayons or hurt feelings. I learned to see when children were lying, when they were scared, when they needed help. But with Jennifer, I didn't want to see. I didn't want to believe my own daughter would lie to me. My neighbor, Margaret Hayes, had noticed something was off. Margaret is 71, a retired nurse, widow like me. Her husband died 6 years ago. We've been friends for 15 years. Book club every Tuesday night, garden club on Friday mornings. She comes over for coffee at 9 o'clock every morning like clockwork. Brings casseroles when she thinks I'm not eating enough. Knows where I keep my spare key. Under the garden gnome by the front steps, the one Emma painted in kindergarten. 2 weeks ago, Margaret had asked if I was feeling all right. "You seem distracted, Carol," she'd said. We were having our morning coffee, and I'd read the same page of the newspaper 3 times without absorbing a word. "I'm fine," I'd said. "Just tired." She'd squeezed my hand. Margaret has a way of knowing when something's wrong, but she also knows when not to push. "I'm here if you need anything," she'd said. "You know that, right?" I knew. Margaret sometimes gets too involved. She's nosy, honestly, always asking questions, always watching, but her heart's in the right place. After her husband died, I'd done the same for her. That's what neighbors do. That's what friends do. The garden looked different now, too. I'd been out there yesterday trying to do my usual fall cleanup. The roses needed pruning. The tomato plants had to come out. But I'd just gone through the motions, mechanical, distracted. Usually gardening calms me. The feel of dirt under my fingernails, the smell of earth and growing things. Yesterday, it felt like work, like everything felt like work lately. I walked through the house that morning after finding the statements, looking at everything differently. The framed photos on the walls, Jennifer at 8 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, Jennifer at her wedding, radiant in white, Jennifer holding newborn Emma, exhausted and happy. All those moments, all those memories, and underneath it all, she'd been stealing from me. No, I couldn't think that way, not yet. There had to be an explanation. Paul Chen was my financial advisor. He'd managed David's retirement accounts for 20 years, continued with me after David died. Paul is 55, professional, formal, always calls me Mrs. Bennett, even though I've told him a dozen times that Carol is fine. He wears a suit and tie to every meeting, keeps a framed photo of his wife and 2 teenage kids on his desk, offers me coffee every time, though I prefer tea. I needed to call Paul, show him the statements, let him tell me I was wrong, that there was a reasonable explanation, that the money was still there somehow and I just misread the numbers. But first, I needed to talk to someone who wouldn't judge, who wouldn't make me feel foolish. That morning, around 8 o'clock, I picked up the phone. My hand was steadier now. The shock had settled into something else, something cold and clear. I called Margaret. "Something's wrong," I said when she answered. My voice cracked on the last word. "I'll be right there," Margaret said. No questions, just that. She was at my door in 5 minutes, still in her bathrobe, hair uncombed, but there. She came into the kitchen, took one look at my face, and said, "Sit down, I'll make fresh coffee." I sat. Margaret made coffee. She knows where everything is in my kitchen, has for years. She set a mug in front of me, sat down across the table, and waited. I showed her the bank statements. She read them in silence. When she looked up, her face was tight with something I couldn't quite read. Anger? Sadness? Both? "Oh, Carol," she said quietly, "we need to figure this out." It was the first moment I felt less alone. Outside, the morning sun was bright on the lawn. The roses needed pruning. Emma's painted gnome smiled up at nothing. Inside, on my kitchen table, the evidence of 18 months of betrayal sat in neat, organized stacks. I was a second-grade teacher. I knew how to organize things. I knew how to be methodical. I knew how to solve problems. It was time to start solving this one. Margaret and I sat at that kitchen table for an hour, going through every statement. She's a nurse, was a nurse, and she approached the problem the way she would a patient chart. Methodical, clinical, looking for patterns. 18 months, she said. That's deliberate, not a mistake, not a misunderstanding. I wanted to argue, but the numbers didn't lie. You need to see everything, Margaret said, not just the retirement account, everything Jennifer might have touched. I went to the file cabinet in the office, David's old office, though I'd never changed the nameplate on the door. The metal handles were cold under my fingers. The drawer stuck, the way it always did. Inside, folders organized by year and category, bills, insurance, tax returns, bank statements. I'd been so careful about filing, teacher habits, everything labeled, color-coded, alphabetized. But looking at it now, I realized something. Some of the bank statements were missing, not lost, missing. The pattern was too clean. Every 3rd month, every 6th month. The statements that would have shown the largest withdrawals. "Carol?" Margaret was standing in the doorway. "What is it?" "She took some of the statements," I said. My voice sounded distant. "So I wouldn't see the pattern." Margaret's face tightened. "What else is she hiding?" I pulled out the folder from my savings account, the one I kept for emergencies, house repairs, medical bills, just-in-case money. The balance should have been around $30,000. David and I had built that up over years. Small deposits, tax refunds, bonuses. The latest statement showed $11,000, $18,000 gone from savings, too. I need to check my credit, I said. My hands were shaking again. Margaret, can you help me? I'm not good with the computer. We went back to the kitchen. Margaret pulled up the credit report website on my laptop. It's easy, she said, her fingers moving quickly over the keys. You just need to answer some security questions. I squinted at the screen. At my age, everything online looks like hieroglyphics, but Margaret walked me through it. My previous addresses, the amount of my mortgage, paid off, thank God, the year David bought his truck. The credit report loaded. Margaret went very still. What? I said. What is it? She turned the laptop toward me, pointed at the screen. 3 accounts I didn't recognize. A Visa credit card opened 8 months ago. Balance, $11,500. A Macy's department store card. Balance, $2,800. And an application for a home equity line of credit. $75,000. Status, denied. I didn't open these, I said. Margaret, I know you didn't, Margaret said quietly. But someone did, using your information. The room felt too bright, too sharp. I stood up, needed to move, paced to the window. The garden gnome stared up at me. Emma had painted that when she was 6, pink, cheeks, crooked smile. She'd been so proud. Jennifer had taken her to the craft store to buy the paint. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Jennifer. Don't answer it yet, Margaret said. You need to think about what you're going to say. But I was already picking up. Jennifer? Hey, Mom. Her voice was bright, too bright. Just checking in. How are you doing? I'm fine, I said carefully. How's Emma? She's good. Listen, I was thinking about Thanksgiving. I know it's going to be different this year, but maybe we could do lunch the Friday after. Just you, me, and Emma. She was trying to smooth things over, trying to make it seem normal. Jennifer, I said, I was looking at my retirement account. The balance seems lower than I remembered. Silence. Just for a moment. Then, Mom, you gave me power of attorney. I've been managing things for you, moving money around to get better interest rates. It's all there, just in different accounts. That was a lie. I could hear it in her voice. The slight rise at the end, the way she spoke faster. The same tone she'd used at 12 when she said she'd finished her homework when she hadn't. Could you send me the details? I asked. I'd like to see where the money was moved. Of course. I'll email everything. But Mom, why are you checking the accounts? Don't you trust me? There it was, the turn, making me feel guilty for asking questions. I just want to understand, I said. You know what? Jennifer's voice changed, sharper now. I think you should see a doctor. You've been forgetting things lately. This is concerning. What things have I been forgetting? We talked about the accounts, Mom. We talked about moving the money, don't you remember? Last month at lunch? We hadn't had lunch last month. I'd asked her 3 times to meet, and she'd been too busy each time. I need to go, I said. I'll talk to you later. I hung up before she could respond. Margaret was watching me. She gaslight you. I nodded, sat down heavily. She's been doing it for months, hasn't she? Little things, making me question myself, making me think I'm forgetful. Classic manipulation, Margaret said. She should know. She'd dealt with her own family issues, her son's gambling problem 15 years ago. She'd never told me the full story, but I'd heard enough. What else do you need to check? I thought about it. What would Jennifer have access to? What could she manipulate? My email, I said suddenly. The retirement account sends statements by email, too. I haven't checked it in weeks. Margaret pulled the laptop back toward us. I logged into my email. The password was still David's birthday. I'd never changed it. And opened the folder labeled Statements. There. Among the usual emails from the bank. One from 2 weeks ago. But it wasn't from the bank. It was from Jennifer's email to someone named Mason Roberts. Subject line. Mom's house appraisal, next steps. I opened it. Mason, thanks for the preliminary appraisal. $380K sounds right for the market. Once we get through Thanksgiving and I can talk to Mom about the move, we'll schedule the formal inspection. She's resistant to the idea of downsizing, but with her memory issues, I think we can work with that. The assisted living facility you recommended looks perfect. Much more manageable than this old place. Jennifer. The email had been forwarded to my address by mistake. Jennifer had meant to send it just to this Mason person, a realtor obviously, but she'd clicked reply all. Margaret read over my shoulder. Carol. She's trying to sell my house, I said. The words felt strange in my mouth. Impossible. She's telling people I have memory issues. She's planning to move me into assisted living. Without your permission. I gave her power of attorney, I said. Does that give her permission? Not for this, Margaret said firmly. Not to sell your house, not to commit you somewhere. Carol, you need a lawyer. Today. My phone buzzed. Text message from Jennifer. Mom, I'm worried about you. Maybe I should come over. Are you alone? Is someone there with you? She knew. Somehow, she knew I was digging. I showed Margaret the text. Don't respond, Margaret said. Not yet, let her wonder. I set down the phone. Looked around my kitchen, this kitchen where I'd made thousands of meals, where Jennifer had done her homework at this table, where David and I had our morning coffee for 40 years, where I'd cried when he died and Margaret had sat with me in the silence. My house, mine and David's, built in 1952 by David's grandfather. Every room had a memory, every corner had a story, and Jennifer was planning to take it away. She wasn't just taking my money, she was planning to take my house, my independence, my life. I looked at Margaret. I need to know what else she's done. Everything. Margaret squeezed my hand. Then we keep digging. But we both knew the truth now. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was systematic. This was planned. My daughter, my only child, was stealing my entire life. Monday morning, I called Paul Chen at his office. Paul, I need to see you, today if possible. Of course, Mrs. Bennett. Always formal. Is everything all right? No, I said. Everything is not all right. He had an opening at 10. Margaret drove me. I didn't trust myself behind the wheel. My hands were still shaky, and I'd barely slept. We'd spent all of Sunday going through every piece of paper in my house, creating folders, evidence. That's what Margaret kept calling it, evidence. Paul's office was downtown, 3rd floor of the First National Building. The elevator was slow. Margaret stood beside me, carrying the folder of bank statements. She'd organized them chronologically, nurse habits and teacher habits working together. The office was exactly as I remembered. Mahogany desk, framed certifications on the wall, a window overlooking the parking lot. Paul stood when we entered, concern clear on his face. Mrs. Bennett, please sit. He gestured to the chairs across from his desk. Then he noticed Margaret. And you are? Margaret Hayes, Carol's neighbor and friend. She asked me to come. Paul nodded. Of course. He sat back down, hands folded on the desk. What can I help you with? I slid the folder across to him. I need you to look at these statements. Tell me what you see. He opened the folder. I watched his face as he read. The concern deepened. He pulled up something on his computer, typed quickly, clicked through screens, set down his reading glasses, picked them up again. Mrs. Bennett, he said finally, when was the last time we met to review your accounts? 6 months ago, maybe 7. And you haven't checked the online portal since then? I don't. I'm not good with the online system. You send me quarterly statements. I file them. He turned his computer monitor so I could see, pulled up my retirement account. This is the current balance, $125,436. I nodded. That matched the most recent statement. Last year, at this time, the balance was $178,217. The number hung in the air between us. That's $53,000, Margaret said quietly. Paul pulled up a different screen. Transaction history. He scrolled slowly, letting us see. Withdrawal, withdrawal, withdrawal. Different amounts, different dates, but always withdrawals. These are all authorized by power of attorney, Paul said. Jennifer Bennett. The authorizations are legitimate. She has the legal right to access the account under the POA you signed. He paused. But Mrs. Bennett, did you authorize these specific withdrawals? No. Did you know they were happening? No. He sat back. His jaw tightened. Then we have a problem. I sat there, looking at those numbers, at the screen with its neat columns of dates and amounts. Each line represented a withdrawal. Each line was money David and I had saved, money we'd put away, paycheck after, paycheck for 35 years. Every summer I'd tutored students, extra income that went straight to retirement. Every year David got a bonus from the county. We'd deposit half. When his father died and left him $10,000, we'd put it all in this account. For our future. For the trips we'd take, the security we'd need, the emergencies we'd face. David never got to see retirement. Heart attack at 65, 3 months after leaving the county office. And now Jennifer had taken it. Just taken it. Like it was hers. Like those 35 years of saving meant nothing. I kept thinking about the numbers. $53,000. That was 8 years of my tutoring income. That was David's overtime during the recession when work was slow. That was his father's inheritance. That was our careful planning, our sacrifices, our small luxuries we'd denied ourselves so this money would be there when we needed it. And Jennifer had spent it in 18 months. On what? Her divorce attorney? Emma's school? Her own bills? I didn't even know. The money was just gone. Mrs. Bennett? Paul's voice was gentle. Are you all right? I realized I'd been silent for a long time. I'm all right, I said. But I wasn't. Nothing was all right. Margaret squeezed my hand under the desk. What do? I asked. Can I get it back? We need to involve an attorney, Paul said. He chose his words carefully. This is financial exploitation, elder abuse. I need to recommend that you speak with an elder law attorney immediately. Do you have someone? Margaret asked. Paul pulled open a drawer, took out a business card. Susan Winters. She specializes in these cases. I've worked with her before. He handed me the card. She's good. She'll tell you what your options are. I looked at the card. Susan Winters, attorney at law. Elder law and estate planning. I can call her now if you'd like, Paul said. See if she can fit you in this week. Today, I said. I need to see her today. Paul made the call, spoke quietly, hung up. She can see you at 2 o'clock. Her office is on Maple Street above the coffee shop. I nodded, stood up. My legs felt unsteady. Mrs. Bennett, Paul said. I'm sorry. I should have caught this sooner. I should have noticed the pattern. You sent me the statements, I said. I should have read them more carefully. I'm implementing monthly statement reviews from now on, he said, and I'm flagging your account. No more POA withdrawals without direct verification from you. It was too late for that to help, but I appreciated the gesture. Margaret and I had lunch at the diner on Main Street. Neither of us ate much. At 1:45, we walked to Susan Winters' office. The building was old, narrow, wedged between 2 storefronts, stairs up to the 2nd floor. Susan's office was at the end of the hall, a simple door, a brass nameplate, fresh flowers on a side table in the small waiting room. Susan Winters was 48, maybe 50, professional but warm. She invited us into her conference room, offered coffee. We both declined and sat across from us at a large table. Paul Chen briefed me, she said, but I'd like to hear it from you. Start at the beginning. I told her everything. The Thanksgiving phone call, the bank statements, the missing money, the credit cards I didn't open, the email about selling my house. Susan took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she set down her pen. Mrs. Bennett, What you're describing is financial exploitation. It falls under the elder abuse statute in our state. Jennifer had a fiduciary duty when you gave her power of attorney. That means she was legally required to act in your best interest, not hers. These withdrawals, she tapped the statements I'd brought. These were for her personal benefit. That's a clear breach. Can I revoke the power of attorney? I asked. Yes, immediately, and you should. I'll prepare the paperwork today. Can I get the money back? That depends. We'll need to document everything Jennifer took, build a complete record. Then we can pursue restitution through mediation or, if necessary, civil court. The credit card fraud is a separate issue. That's identity theft. We'll need to report it to the credit bureaus and potentially to law enforcement. I don't want my daughter arrested, I said quickly. Susan's expression was kind but firm. I understand, but you need to protect yourself, and you need to understand that what Jennifer did is serious, criminal, potentially. Even if you don't pursue criminal charges, the threat of them can be leverage in negotiation. Margaret leaned forward. What about the house? The email said something about power of attorney expansion. Show me, Susan said. I pulled out the printed email. Susan read it. Her jaw tightened. This is concerning, she said. Jennifer attempted to expand the power of attorney to include property sales. Did you sign any additional documents in the last year? No. Are you certain? I'm certain. Susan opened her laptop, typed quickly. I'm checking the county clerk's records. Property transactions are public. She waited, clicked. Her face changed. There's a flagged document here. An attempted POA amendment filed 6 months ago. It would have given Jennifer authority to sell real estate. It was rejected. Why was it rejected? The signature didn't match. The county clerk called you to verify. Do you remember that? I did. 6 months ago. A woman from the county clerk's office had called, asking if I'd recently signed papers to modify my power of attorney. I'd said no. She'd thanked me and said they'd rejected the document. I'd forgotten about it, pushed it aside. Didn't want to think about what it meant. The signature was forged, Susan said flatly. Jennifer forged your signature. That's fraud. The room felt cold. She tried to give herself permission to sell my house. Yes, without telling me. Yes. I sat back, tried to process this. My daughter had forged my signature. My daughter had committed fraud. My daughter... Mrs. Bennett, Susan said gently, I know this is difficult, but you need to understand the scope of what's happened. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is systematic. This is planned. Jennifer has been setting this up for months, maybe longer. What do I do? My voice was small. We build the case, Susan said. We document everything. Bank records, credit reports, emails, property records. We revoke the power of attorney immediately. We freeze your accounts. We report the credit fraud. And then we confront Jennifer, legally, formally, with all the evidence, and we demand restitution. How long will that take? It depends on whether Jennifer cooperates. If she agrees to mediation, we could resolve this in a few weeks. If not, Susan paused. It could take months. But either way, you have a strong case. Margaret and I left Susan's office at 4. We'd been there for over 2 hours. Susan had given us a checklist, things to gather, people to call, steps to take. I felt numb, exhausted, but also something else, determined. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with all the evidence spread out. Margaret had gone home, but she'd be back in the morning. Susan was preparing the POA revocation paperwork. Paul was securing my accounts. I organized everything into folders. Teacher habits, label each one clearly. Bank statements, retirement account. Bank statements, savings account, credit reports, emails, real estate legal documents. POA, each folder was evidence. Each folder was proof. I'd taught second grade for 34 years. I knew how to organize things. I knew how to build a case. I knew how to present facts clearly, and I knew how to recognize when someone was lying. Jennifer had been lying for 18 months, but I had the truth now, in neat labeled folders, ready for whatever came next. Wednesday morning, 4 days until Thanksgiving. I woke at 6, old teaching habits die hard, and made coffee. The house was quiet, just me and the early light coming through the kitchen window. I sat at the kitchen table with all the documents Susan had given me. The POA revocation paperwork, the timeline she'd created of Jennifer's withdrawals, the checklist of steps to take, the business card for a forensic accountant, the contact information for the credit bureaus. My coffee cooled in the mug. I couldn't drink it, could barely look at it. This table, this kitchen table where I was sitting. It had been in this house since David and I moved in 42 years ago. Oak, heavy, solid. His grandfather had built it in his workshop in 1948, gave it to us as a wedding present. David used to run his hand along the grain when he was thinking. I'd caught him doing it 1,000 times. This was the table where we'd made every important decision, where we'd decided to have Jennifer, where we'd planned David's father's funeral, where we'd sat with the hospice nurse and signed the papers after David died. And now I was sitting here, deciding whether to fight my own daughter. No, that wasn't quite right. I wasn't deciding whether to fight. That decision had already been made. The moment Jennifer forged my signature, the moment she opened credit cards in my name, the moment she planned to sell my house without asking, what I was deciding was how to fight. I remembered Thanksgiving 15 years ago. Jennifer was 31. Emma had just been born that October. Tiny, premature, spending her first weeks in the NICU. We weren't sure Emma would make it home in time for the holiday, but she did, released 2 days before Thanksgiving. Jennifer brought her over in the infant carrier. Emma slept through the entire meal, this impossibly small person wrapped in a pink blanket. David carved the turkey while Jennifer sat at this table, one hand on Emma's carrier, watching her breathe, making sure she was still breathing. "Mom," Jennifer had said, "can you teach me how to make your stuffing? I want to know how, for when Emma's old enough." We'd stood at the counter together, my hands guiding hers. Sage, celery, onions, the smell of butter in the pan. "One day you'll teach Emma," I'd told her, "and she'll teach her daughter." Jennifer had smiled, tired but hopeful. One day. We'd laughed about Emma sleeping through her first Thanksgiving. Jennifer had taken pictures of the baby in the carrier next to the turkey, sent them to everyone. "Emma's first holiday," the caption said. "She slept through it." That was 15 years ago. This year, there would be no Jennifer at my table, no Emma's laughter, just an empty chair where my daughter used to sit, and another empty chair where my granddaughter should be. I looked at those chairs, and I realized something. I could fill them. Not with Jennifer, that ship had sailed when she chose to steal from me, but with people who actually wanted to be here, people who cared about me, people I could trust. I opened the drawer by the stove. David's reading glasses were still there, folded neatly. I'd never been able to throw them away. I touched the frames, cool metal under my fingers. "What would you do?" I asked the empty kitchen, but I already knew. David would have called an attorney the moment he saw the first withdrawal. David would have revoked the power of attorney immediately. David wouldn't have worried about keeping the peace or protecting Jennifer's feelings. David would have fought. I sat there quietly, looking at those papers. 42 years in this house. Every room held a memory. Every corner held a piece of our lives. David's grandfather built this house in 1952, raised his family here, passed it to David's father, then to us. This wasn't just a house. This was generations. This was family history. This was where David and I became us. And I realized this wasn't about Jennifer anymore. This was about me, standing up, protecting what was mine, what David and I had built together. I picked up my phone, made the first call. "Susan, it's Carol Bennett. I've reviewed the papers. I'm ready to sign everything. Today." Susan's voice was warm but professional. "I can meet you at noon. My office? I'll be there." I made the second call. "Margaret, can you come over this morning? I need your help with something." "Of course. Give me 20 minutes. The third call was harder. I scrolled through my contacts, found Pastor Michael's number. We weren't close. I attended services most Sundays, but I wasn't deeply involved. But he'd been kind after David died. Sat with me during the worst weeks. Didn't push. Just present. "Pastor Michael, it's Carol Bennett. I have an unusual question. Are you and David free for Thanksgiving?" A pause. "We don't have plans yet." "Why?" "I'm hosting. At my house. It'll be small. Maybe 8 people. I know it's last minute, but I'd love to have you." "Carol, we'd be honored. What can we bring?" "Just yourselves." When Margaret arrived, I was pulling out my recipe box, the same wooden box my mother had given me when I got married, index cards in her handwriting, my handwriting, Jennifer's handwriting from when she was 12 and wanted to learn to cook. "What are you doing?" Margaret asked. "Planning Thanksgiving dinner," I said. "In this house, my house, I'm hosting." Margaret sat down across from me, smiled. "Who's coming?" "You, Pastor Michael and his husband David, Paul Chen and his wife, if they'll come. I should call them. Maybe Tom and Susan from across the street." "Not Jennifer." "Not Jennifer." Margaret reached across the table, squeezed my hand. "Good for you." I looked at the recipe cards. Turkey, stuffing, green bean casserole, mashed potatoes, apple pie. The same menu I'd made for 42 years. The same recipes, different guests. But my table, my house, my tradition. I sent the email to Susan at 10 o'clock. Scanned. Copies of all the evidence. Organized by category. Labeled clearly. Teacher habits. Make it easy for her to present the case. At noon, Margaret drove me to Susan's office. I signed the POA revocation. Susan witnessed it, filed it with the county clerk electronically. "It's official," she said. "As of this moment, Jennifer has no access to your accounts." "What happens next?" I asked. "I'll send her a formal notification. She'll know the POA is revoked. Then we schedule mediation. Give her the option to settle this quietly or take it further." "How long?" "If she cooperates, we could mediate within 2 weeks. The Monday after Thanksgiving, potentially." I nodded. Monday after Thanksgiving. I could do that. 4 days to get through the holiday. 4 days to prove to myself, to everyone, that I was fine. That I didn't need Jennifer. That I could stand on my own. That evening, I called Paul Chen's wife, Emily. We'd met a few times at firm events. She was lovely, quiet, thoughtful, taught high school English. "Emily, this is Carol Bennett, Paul's client. I have a strange question. Are you and Paul free for Thanksgiving? I'm hosting, and I'd love to have you." "Oh, Carol, that's so kind. Let me check with Paul." A pause. Muffled conversation. Then, "We'd love to come. What can we bring?" "Wine, if you'd like. And yourselves." I called Tom and Susan Rodriguez next, neighbors across the street, retired like me. We waved when we saw each other, traded garden vegetables in summer. They'd brought a casserole after David died. They said yes too, 8 people. My table could fit 10 comfortably. 8 was perfect. I opened my recipe box, started making a shopping list. Turkey, 15 pounds would do. Potatoes, fresh green beans, celery and sage for stuffing, apples for pie, heavy cream, butter. All the things I'd bought for 42 years. But this year was different. This year wasn't about family obligation or tradition or the way things had always been done. This year was about choice, about reclaiming what was mine, about filling my table with people who wanted to be there, my house, my table, my guests, my choice. I looked around the kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd made thousands of meals, where Jennifer had done her homework at this table, where Emma had finger-painted that gnome, where David and I had sat with our morning coffee for decades. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. I was still Carol Bennett, still 69, still a widow, still a retired teacher, but I wasn't a victim anymore. I picked up my phone one more time, opened a new text to Jennifer, typed carefully. I've revoked the power of attorney. My attorney will be in contact. We have nothing to discuss until mediation. I read it twice. Deleted the last sentence. Too harsh. Added it back. No, it was necessary. She needed to know this wasn't negotiable. I hit send. Then I turned off my phone. 3 days until Thanksgiving. 3 days to shop, to cook, to prepare. 3 days to prove to myself that I could do this, that I could stand up, that I could reclaim my life. I opened my recipe box, started pulling cards. Turkey, stuffing, pie. Time to get to work. Thursday, 3 days until Thanksgiving. I went grocery shopping with Margaret. The store was crowded, everyone doing their holiday prep. We pushed a cart through the aisles, checking my list. Turkey, potatoes, green beans, butter, heavy cream, pie crust. It felt surreal. Normal people doing normal things, picking out cranberries, comparing yam prices. Meanwhile, I was gathering evidence against my own daughter. Margaret picked up a bag of stuffing mix. "You're not using this, are you?" "Homemade," I said. "Always homemade." She smiled. "Good." My phone rang while we were in the checkout line. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mrs. Bennett?" A woman's voice, professional. "This is Amanda from Dr. Morrison's office. Your blood pressure reading from your last visit was elevated. The doctor would like you to come in for a recheck." I'd forgotten about that appointment. 2 weeks ago. Annual checkup. The nurse had frowned at the numbers, taken it 3 times. "Stress," she'd said. "Are you under stress?" I was now. "Can I call you back to schedule?" I asked. "Of course. But Mrs. Bennett, don't wait too long. The reading was concerning." I hung up. Margaret was watching me. "Blood pressure," I said. "It's fine." "Carol, it's fine." But my hands were shaking as I loaded groceries into the car. That afternoon, Jennifer showed up at my house. I saw her car pull into the driveway. My stomach dropped. Margaret was still there. Thank God Margaret was still there. The doorbell rang. I opened it. Jennifer stood on the porch holding flowers. Roses, my favorite, from the expensive florist on Main Street. "Mom," she said. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "Please, can we talk?" I didn't move from the doorway. "What do you want, Jennifer?" "I got your attorney's letter. The POA revocation." Her voice cracked. "Mom, I know you're upset, but I can explain everything. Please, just let me explain." Part of me wanted to, the mother part, the part that remembered rocking her to sleep as a baby, the part that had wiped her tears and bandaged her scraped knees and cheered at her graduation. But the rest of me, the part that had counted $53,000 in withdrawals, the part that had seen forged signatures, the part that knew she'd planned to sell my house, that part said no. "Jennifer, you need to leave." "Mom, please, the divorce, losing my job. I was drowning. I panicked. I made terrible choices. But I was going to pay you back. I swear. I just needed time." Margaret appeared behind me. "Carol asked you to leave." Jennifer's face changed, hardened. She looked at Margaret. "This is between me and my mother." "Your mother asked you to leave," Margaret repeated. Jennifer turned back to me. "Mom, think about Emma. She misses you. She needs her grandmother. Don't do this to her." "I'm not doing anything to Emma," I said quietly. "I'm protecting her and myself. My attorney will contact you about mediation." "Mediation?" Jennifer's voice rose. "You're really going to do this? Take me to mediation? Over money I was managing for you? You stole from me. I had power of attorney. That's not stealing. You forged my signature to try to sell my house." Jennifer went pale. I didn't leave. Now." She stood there for a moment, then set the flowers on the porch. "Fine, but you're making a mistake. Emma will never forgive you for this." She walked back to her car, drove away. I left the flowers on the porch. An hour later, I threw them in the garbage. Friday, Susan called in the morning. "Jennifer's attorney contacted me. They want to settle." "Settle how?" "They're offering $10,000, partial restitution. if you drop the mediation and don't pursue any legal action. 10,000 out of 53, not even a fifth of what she'd taken. They're admitting guilt, Susan said. That's what this offer means. They know we have the evidence. They're trying to avoid formal mediation. What do you recommend? We counteroffer. Full restitution plus interest. Continue with mediation. Don't let her off easy just because she's offering something. I thought about it. $10,000 would help. It was better than nothing. Part of me was so tired of fighting, so tired of thinking about this. Maybe I should just take it, get it over with, move on. Carol? Margaret was listening from the kitchen table. You deserve all of it back. She was right. I did. Counteroffer, I told Susan. Full restitution. The mediation proceeds. Susan called back that afternoon. They rejected the counter. Jennifer's attorney says she doesn't have the money for full restitution. They're holding at $10,000. Take it or go to formal mediation. Then we go to mediation. Understood. I'm scheduling it now. Are you available the Monday after Thanksgiving? That's the earliest the mediator can fit us in. I'll be there. I hung up. Sat down at the kitchen table. 4 days. 4 days to get through Thanksgiving. Then face Jennifer in mediation. My phone buzzed. Text message. From Emma's number. Nana, it's Emma. Mommy says I can't see you anymore. She says you're trying to hurt us. Is that true? I miss you. Please call me. My chest tightened. Emma. My sweet Emma. 12 years old and caught in the middle of this. I called the number back. Emma answered on the first ring. Nana? Hi, sweetheart. Mommy says you're being mean to her. She's been crying. She says you're trying to take money that doesn't belong to you. I closed my eyes. Jennifer was poisoning her against me. Of course she was. Emma, honey, this is complicated. Your mom and I have some things to work out, but it has nothing to do with you. I love you very much. Then why can't I see you? Why can't we come for Thanksgiving like always? Because your mom and I need some time apart right now. But you're my Nana. Her voice broke. You're supposed to be there. You always make stuffing with me. You always let me help with the pie. My throat hurt. I know, sweetheart, I know. But this year is different. I hate this. She was crying now. I hate that you and Mommy are fighting. Can't you just fix it, please? Emma, Mommy needs help, Nana. She's really stressed. Can't you help her? You always help people. I heard Jennifer's voice in the background. Emma, give me the phone. I have to go, Emma said quickly. I love you, Nana. I love you too, sweet. The line went dead. I sat there holding the phone, Emma's voice echoing in my head. You're supposed to be there. Margaret touched my shoulder. Carol? She used Emma to call me, to make me feel guilty. I know. Emma's 12. She doesn't understand. She thinks I'm being cruel. You're protecting her inheritance. You're showing her that boundaries matter, even when they're hard. I wanted to believe that, but all I could hear was Emma crying. That night, I couldn't sleep. I took my blood pressure medication. The doctor had started me on it years ago, low dose, and sat in the living room. The house was so quiet. I walked to the window, looked out at the street. Jennifer's car was parked 2 houses down, just sitting there, dark. Was she watching the house? Watching me? I closed the blinds, locked the doors, checked them twice. Saturday. Tom from across the street knocked on my door. Carol? I mowed your lawn. Noticed it was getting long. Oh, Tom, you didn't have to do that. No problem, we're neighbors. He paused. Everything okay? I saw Jennifer's car here a few days ago. Looked tense. Small town. Everyone noticed everything. We're working through some things, I said carefully. Tom nodded, didn't push. Well, we're looking forward to Thursday. Susan's making her cornbread. She wanted me to check. Does that work with your menu? Cornbread would be perfect. Sunday. I polished the china. Grandmother's pattern, the tiny blue flowers. I laid each piece carefully on the kitchen counter. My hands were shaking slightly. Not from age, from stress. Each plate was a ritual. Wash, dry, inspect, stack. The same china I'd used for 42 Thanksgivings, the same pattern my grandmother had given my mother, the same set that would eventually go to, not Jennifer, not anymore, to Emma, when she was old enough to understand, when she was old enough to hear the full story. The phone rang. I flinched, checked the caller ID. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again 5 minutes later. Same number. I let it go to voicemail. The message: Mrs. Bennett, this is Mark Walsh. I'm Jennifer Bennett's attorney. I'd like to discuss the mediation scheduled for Monday, November 27th. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. I deleted it. If Jennifer's attorney wanted to talk, he could talk to my attorney. Monday morning, 2 days until Thanksgiving. Susan called. The mediation is confirmed. Monday, November 27th, 10 a.m. My office conference room. The mediator will be Jane Rodriguez. She's excellent, very fair. I'll prepare you on Friday. Friday? The day after Thanksgiving. I know it's a holiday weekend, but we need to prepare. Go over the evidence. Practice what you'll say. Are you available? I'll be there. Carol. Susan's voice softened. How are you holding up? I'm fine. Your blood pressure? How did she know about that? Oh, right. Medical release forms. She'd requested my medical records for the case. It's managed. Make sure it stays that way. I need you healthy for mediation. I promised I would. That afternoon, I finished the shopping. The grocery list was complete. The house was clean. The china was ready. The guest list confirmed. 8 people. My table. Everything was in place, except me. I stood in my kitchen looking at the recipe cards spread on the counter. Turkey, stuffing, pie. The same recipes I'd made for decades, but this year felt different. This year wasn't about tradition or family obligation. This year was about proving something to Jennifer, to Emma, to myself, that I could do this, that I could stand alone, that I didn't need her permission or her presence or her approval. My house, my table, my guests, my life. The mediation was scheduled for the Monday after Thanksgiving. I had 4 days to get through, 4 days to reclaim my home, 4 days to show everyone, including myself, that Carol Bennett was just fine. Jennifer texted that night, "You're making a mistake. Emma will never forgive you. And when this goes to court, they'll see you're not competent to manage your own affairs. I'll get conservatorship. You'll lose everything." I stared at the text. Conservatorship. She was threatening to have me declared incompetent, to take control of everything. I showed Margaret. "She's bluffing," Margaret said. "You're sharp as ever. Susan will shut that down." But the threat hung in the air. I turned off my phone, went to bed, didn't sleep much. 2 days until Thanksgiving. 2 days until I proved I was fine. 2 days until I reclaimed my life. And then, on Monday, I'd face Jennifer. With evidence, with witnesses, with my attorney. And we'd settle this, one way or another. Monday morning. The Monday after Thanksgiving. I'd made it through the holiday, cooked the turkey, hosted 8 people. Margaret, Pastor Michael and David, Paul and Emily, Tom and Susan. The meal had been lovely, the conversation easy. No one mentioned Jennifer. No one asked about Emma. My table, my house, my guests. But now it was Monday, and I had to face Jennifer. Susan had asked me to come to her office an hour early. "We need to prepare," she'd said. "Go over what you'll say. Make sure you're ready." Margaret drove me. My hands were shaking, not from age, from nerves. Susan's office at 9. She was waiting in the conference room, papers spread across the table, evidence organized in folders, each one labeled, each one documented. "How are you feeling?" Susan asked. "Nervous? That's normal. But remember, you have the evidence. You have the truth. All you need to do is tell your story. Let me handle the legal arguments." She walked me through it, what to expect, how mediation worked. Jane Rodriguez, the mediator, would facilitate. She'd hear both sides, review the evidence, Try to reach an agreement. If we couldn't agree, we'd go to civil court, but that would take months, maybe a year. Jennifer's attorney will try to paint you as confused, maybe incompetent. They'll suggest the withdrawals were authorized, that you knew about them and forgot. Don't let them rattle you. I won't. If you feel overwhelmed, we can ask for a break. Anytime. Just signal me. I nodded. One more thing, Susan said. You don't have to speak to Jennifer directly. You can address all your comments to the mediator. Sometimes that's easier. I understand. At 9:45, we walked down the hall to the larger conference room, the one Susan used for mediations. Long oak table, windows overlooking Maple Street, chairs set up on both sides, water glasses, legal pads, pens. Jennifer was already there, sitting next to her attorney, Mark Walsh, 40-something. Tired eyes. Expensive suit. Jennifer looked awful. Thinner than I remembered. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wouldn't meet my eyes. The mediator, Jane Rodriguez, sat at the head of the table. 50s, professional, neutral expression. She stood when we entered. Mrs. Bennett, Ms. Winters, please sit. Susan and I took our seats across from Jennifer and Mr. Walsh. The evidence folders sat between us. Physical proof of 18 months of theft, Jane began. Thank you all for coming. I'm Jane Rodriguez, and I'll be mediating today's session. The goal is to reach an agreement that both parties can accept. This is not a courtroom. This is not a trial. This is a conversation, a facilitated conversation about how to resolve this matter. She looked at Jennifer, then at me. Let's begin with the facts. Ms. Winters, would you like to present your client's position? Susan opened the first folder. Mrs. Carol Bennett is 69 years old, a retired teacher, widow, 3. Years ago, she granted her daughter, Jennifer Bennett, power of attorney for financial matters. The intent was limited, to help with bill paying if Mrs. Bennett became incapacitated. However, Jennifer used that authority to systematically withdraw funds from Mrs. Bennett's retirement and savings accounts. Over 18 months, she took $53,000 without authorization. She also opened credit cards in Mrs. Bennett's name, accumulating $11,500 in debt. Additionally, she attempted to forge Mrs. Bennett's signature on property documents to gain authority to sell Mrs. Bennett's home. Jane made notes. Mr. Walsh, your client's position? Mark Walsh cleared his throat. Ms. Bennett acknowledges that she made withdrawals from her mother's accounts using the power of attorney. However, she maintains that she was acting in what she believed to be her mother's best interest. Ms. Bennett has been under significant financial and emotional stress, a contentious divorce, job loss, medical expenses for her daughter. She made poor decisions, yes, but her intent was never malicious. She believed she could repay the funds before her mother noticed any discrepancy. That's a lie, I said quietly. Jane looked at me. Mrs. Bennett, would you like to respond? Jennifer knew exactly what she was doing. She hid bank statements. She gaslit me when I asked questions. She told people I had memory problems so she could justify taking control of my house. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. Jennifer's attorney started to speak, but Jane held up her hand. Let's hear from the witnesses. Ms. Winters has indicated she'd like to call 2 witnesses. Is that correct? Yes, Paul Chen and Linda Patterson. Jane nodded. Mr. Chen is here. Let's begin with him. Paul entered the room, sat in the chair at the end of the table. He looked uncomfortable in his suit, formal, as always, but also angry. I could see it in the tight set of his jaw. Susan stood. Mr. Chen, you're Mrs. Bennett's financial advisor. Is that correct? Yes. I've managed her accounts for 20 years. Her late husband's accounts before that. Can you describe what you discovered regarding Mrs. Bennett's retirement account? Paul pulled out a folder, his folder, the one he'd prepared. Over 18 months, there were systematic withdrawals from Mrs. Bennett's retirement account, different amounts, different dates, but always withdrawals. The total was $53,000, all authorized via power of attorney by Jennifer Bennett. Did Mrs. Bennett authorize these specific withdrawals? No. When I showed her the statements, she had no knowledge of them. None. In your professional opinion, was this appropriate use of power of attorney? Absolutely not. Power of attorney creates a fiduciary duty. That means Jennifer was legally required to act in her mother's best interest. These withdrawals were for Jennifer's personal use. That's exploitation. Elder financial abuse. Mr. Walsh spoke up. Objection. Mr. Chen is not a lawyer. He can't make legal determinations. Jane nodded. Sustained. Mr. Chen, please stick to the financial facts. The facts are clear, Paul said. $53,000. Gone. Without Mrs. Bennett's knowledge or permission. Susan thanked Paul. He left. Jane made more notes. Next witness? Jane asked. Linda Patterson via phone. Jane dialed the number. Put it on speaker. A woman's voice answered. This is Linda Patterson. Ms. Patterson, this is Jane Rodriguez. I'm mediating a case involving Mrs. Carol Bennett. You're the county clerk? Yes. 17 years. Susan spoke. Ms. Patterson, can you describe an incident from 6 months ago involving an attempted POA amendment? Yes. A document was submitted to expand Mrs. Bennett's power of attorney to include real estate transactions. It would have given Jennifer Bennett authority to sell Mrs. Bennett's property. I reviewed the document. The signature didn't match Mrs. Bennett's signature on file. Different slant. Different pressure. I flagged it as potentially fraudulent and called Mrs. Bennett to verify. She stated she had not signed any such document. I rejected the filing and placed an alert on the property. In your professional opinion? Clear forgery. I've seen it before with elderly property owners. Someone tries to gain control of real estate without the owner's knowledge. It's fraud. Thank you, Ms. Patterson. The call ended. Jane looked at Jennifer. Ms. Bennett, would you like to respond to these allegations? Jennifer's voice was small. I didn't forge anything. Someone must have made a mistake. The county clerk called your mother to verify, Jane said. Your mother said she didn't sign it. Jennifer looked at her attorney. Mr. Walsh whispered something to her. I was trying to help. Mom was talking about moving, about downsizing. I thought, I never said I wanted to move, I said. My voice was steady, firm. You wanted to sell my house without asking me. You were going to put me in assisted living and take the proceeds. Jennifer's face crumbled. I wouldn't. We have the email, Susan said quietly, to Mason Roberts, the realtor, discussing Mom's memory issues and the manageable assisted living facility. Mrs. Bennett received it by accident. You forwarded it to her email. Mr. Walsh closed his eyes. Jennifer had sent him a copy of that email. He'd known about it. He'd hoped we didn't have it. Jane reviewed the evidence. 2 more witnesses, my physician and the bank's fraud investigator, had submitted written statements. Jane read them aloud. Both confirmed my mental capacity and the credit card scheme. Then came the moment I'd been dreading, the confrontation. Jane looked at Jennifer. Ms. Bennett, did you make these withdrawals using your mother's power of attorney? Yes, but I had power of attorney. I was managing her finances. That's what she asked me to do. Did you ask your mother before making each withdrawal? No, but did you tell your mother after making each withdrawal? She didn't need to know every detail. I was handling things. Susan leaned forward. Handling things? Or exploiting your mother? The power of attorney was for bill paying if your mother became incapacitated. She's clearly capable. You took $53,000 for your personal use. That's not managing. That's stealing. I was desperate. Jennifer's voice rose. The divorce. Mike took everything. I lost my job. Emma's medical bills were piling up. I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked, I said. Jennifer looked at me for the first time. Really looked. Her eyes were wet. I did ask. You'd already given me so much. $93,000 over the years. College, house, divorce lawyer, Emma's school. I couldn't ask for more. You'd already done enough. So you just took it. I thought I'd pay you back before you noticed. I thought the house sale would cover everything. I thought I had more time. There it was. The admission. She'd planned it. All of it. Jennifer, I said quietly, I gave you power of attorney to pay my electric bill if I got sick, to handle my insurance if I couldn't, not to drain my retirement account, not to open credit cards in my name, and certainly not to try to steal my house. I took a breath, measured, calm. I gave you $93,000 over 25 years, college, house down payment, your divorce lawyer, Emma's school. I thought that was love. You thought it was a down payment. Jennifer started crying, soft sobs. Her attorney handed her a tissue. Jane let the silence sit for a moment. Then, Ms. Bennett, your attorney mentioned you've been diagnosed with clinical depression, that you're in treatment now. Mr. Walsh nodded. Ms. Bennett has been under extreme psychological pressure. The job loss, the divorce. She made terrible choices, but she wasn't thinking clearly. The depression clouded her judgment. That doesn't excuse theft, Susan said flatly. No, Mr. Walsh agreed. It doesn't, but it provides context. Jane reviewed her notes. Let's discuss resolution. Ms. Winters, what is your client seeking? Susan pulled out the settlement proposal, read it aloud. Power of attorney permanently revoked. Restitution of $53,000 plus 4% interest, totaling $55,120. Payment plan over 36 months, $1,531 per month. No contact order except for supervised visits with the minor child, Emma. Monthly at a neutral location. Updated estate plan removing Jennifer Bennett as beneficiary, with Emma's inheritance placed in a professional trust. Jennifer must complete a court-approved financial literacy course. No criminal charges filed in exchange for full compliance with these terms. Mr. Walsh and Jennifer whispered together. Long conversation. Jennifer shook her head, then nodded, then shook her head again. Finally, Mr. Walsh spoke. My client agrees to most terms. However, the monthly payment of $1,531 is not feasible. Ms. Bennett's current income from part-time work is approximately $2,500 per month. After rent and basic expenses, she can manage $1,000 per month. That would extend the repayment to 55 months. Susan looked at me. I nodded. Acceptable, Susan said, with one addition. If Jennifer misses 2 consecutive payments, the full balance becomes due immediately, and Mrs. Bennett reserves the right to pursue criminal charges. Agreed, Mr. Walsh said. Jane drafted the settlement document, typed it on her laptop, printed 3 copies, slid them across the table. Jennifer signed first. Her hand shook. She didn't look at me. I signed second. My hand was steady. Our attorneys signed as witnesses. Jane notarized. This settlement is binding, Jane said. Both parties are legally obligated to comply with all terms. If either party violates the agreement, the other may seek legal recourse. Jennifer stood, gathered her things. Her attorney said something to her I couldn't hear. She walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. Mom, she said, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. What was there to say? She left. Her attorney followed. Susan squeezed my hand. It's over. When the mediator read the settlement terms, I didn't feel triumphant, just tired, relieved, but mostly tired. Susan and I walked out together. Margaret was waiting in the lobby. She stood when she saw me, read my face. It's done? She asked. It's done. The November air was cold, sharp. We walked to Margaret's car. I got in, buckled my seatbelt. It's really over? I asked Susan. Legally, yes, Susan said through the open car window. Now comes the hard part. I didn't understand. Then I remembered. Thanksgiving. Tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Thanksgiving had been last week. I'd already done it. Already proved I could. Tomorrow was just Tuesday, a normal day. The first day of the rest of my life. the first day without Jennifer. The first day with boundaries, with justice, with the truth. The week after mediation was strange, quiet. I went through my routines, morning coffee, reading the newspaper, tending the garden, though there wasn't much to do in late November. The house felt different, lighter somehow, or maybe that was just me. Tuesday afternoon, I went to the county clerk's office, filed the updated power of attorney paperwork. The original POA with Jennifer was officially revoked. In its place, a professional fiduciary service. Margaret witnessed it. So did Susan's paralegal. "Are you sure you don't want a family member as backup?" the clerk asked. I glanced at Margaret. "I have family, just not blood family." The clerk stamped the documents. Official, binding. No one could touch my accounts now without my explicit permission. In person, with ID, before a notary. "Thursday," Paul called. "Mrs. Bennett, Carol, I owe you an apology." "Paul, you don't—" "I do. I should have caught this earlier. Those quarterly statements. I should have noticed the pattern. Monthly withdrawals. The systematic nature of it. I failed you. You sent me the statements. I should have read them more carefully." "I'm implementing new protocols," Paul said. His voice was firm, professional. "Monthly statement reviews for all clients over 65. Automatic alerts for any withdrawal over $1,000. And I'm requiring in-person verification for any power of attorney transactions. This won't happen to another client. Not on my watch." He paused. "You're the bravest client I've ever had. Most people in your situation would have just let it go, kept the peace. You fought back." "I didn't have a choice." "You always have a choice. You chose yourself. That takes courage." After we hung up, I sat with that for a while. Courage. I'd never thought of it that way. It had just felt necessary, like breathing. Friday morning, Margaret came over for coffee. She'd been coming every morning at 9 since this started. Today felt different, though. Settled. "I need to tell you something," Margaret said, "about why I understood what you were going through." I waited. 15 years ago, my son, Tom Jr., had a gambling problem. Online poker, sports betting. I didn't know for months. He had access to my checking account. I'd added him as a joint owner when his father got sick, made it easier for Tom Jr. to help with bills. She looked down at her coffee. He took $68,000 before his father caught it. Credit card cash advances, ATM withdrawals. Small enough amounts that I didn't notice. By the time we found out, most of it was gone. Margaret, I didn't know. We got most of it back. His father made him take out a loan, made him pay us back every penny, but I lost my son for 3 years. He couldn't look at me. The shame was too much. We're better now. He's been in Gamblers Anonymous for 12 years. But those 3 years... She shook her head. "I understand what you're going through with Jennifer. The betrayal, the grief, the wondering if you'll ever have your daughter back." She squeezed my hand. "You did the right thing. Protecting Emma's future, setting boundaries. That's love, even when it doesn't feel like it." 2 weeks later, I named Margaret as my backup power of attorney, not because I couldn't trust anyone else, because I knew I could trust her. Susan closed my case officially on December 15th. The settlement was filed with the court. The no-contact order was in place. The mediation was over. "I'm offering you 6 months of pro bono follow-up," Susan said. "Any questions about the settlement? Any complications with payments? Anything at all? You call me." "Susan, you've done so much already." "This is important to me," she said. "Elder financial abuse is personal for me. My grandmother went through something similar. I didn't know about it until after she died. Couldn't help her. So I help other people's grandmothers." She pulled out a flyer. "The Senior Center is doing a workshop in January. Financial safety for seniors. Warning signs. Protective measures. They asked if I knew anyone who might be willing to speak, share their story. Would you consider it?" I took the flyer. "Let me think about it." By Christmas, I'd agreed. The first restitution check arrived on December 15th. $1,000. Exactly as agreed. I held it for a long moment. Just paper. But it meant something. Accountability, justice, a beginning. I deposited it immediately. Put it back in the retirement account where it belonged. Paul had restructured the account. Better protections. Tighter controls. I'd never be vulnerable like that again. The credit cards were resolved by mid-December. Paul helped me navigate the fraud reports. The unauthorized Visa, $11,500, was removed from my credit. The balance cleared, marked as fraud. The Macy's card, too, $2,800 gone. My credit score began recovering, not immediately. These things take time, but by January it had climbed to 712, up from 648. 7 years of good credit history before Jennifer started. That helped. The house was secured with multiple layers of protection. Susan filed a protective order with the county clerk. No changes to the deed without my in-person appearance. With ID. Before a notary. 3 separate verifications. Title insurance was updated to cover any fraud attempts. A lien search came back clean. The house David's grandfather built in 1952 was mine, legally, irrevocably, mine. The new will was ironclad. Margaret witnessed it. So did Susan's paralegal. Jennifer was removed as beneficiary, completely. In her place, a trust for Emma. $300,000 from my estate, professionally managed by a fiduciary, distributed at 3 milestones. Age 25 for college or graduate school, age 30 for a first home down payment, age 35 for the final distribution. Jennifer had no access, no control, no say. Emma's future was protected. My contingency plans were documented. Health directives, funeral arrangements, prepaid, everything specified, no room for anyone to make decisions I wouldn't have wanted. Digital estate management, access to accounts, passwords, contacts, every detail locked down. No one can touch this, Susan assured me when I signed the final papers. Your estate, your wishes, all protected. I signed my name. Carol Ann Bennett. My name, my house, my choices. 3 weeks after mediation, Jennifer sent an email. I saw it in my inbox. Almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity won. Subject line. I'm sorry. I opened it. Mom, I know sorry isn't enough. I was drowning and I dragged you down with me. The therapy is helping. I can see now what I did, how wrong it was. Emma asks about you every day. I told her the truth, that I made terrible mistakes and you're protecting yourself. She doesn't fully understand yet, but she will. I won't fight the supervised visits. I won't fight anything anymore. I just wanted you to know I see what I did now. Jay, I read it 3 times. Part of me wanted to believe her. The mother part. The part that remembered teaching her to ride a bike. The part that had stayed up with her through chicken pox and bad breakups and pregnancy scares. But the rest of me, the part that checked credit reports now, that counted restitution payments, that locked doors twice before bed, that part said, not yet, maybe not ever. I didn't respond. Spring came slowly. March brought crocuses. April brought daffodils. I planted bulbs where Jennifer and I used to plant tulips together, but daffodils this time. Yellow instead of red. Not ready for tulips yet. Maybe next year, maybe never. Some traditions don't need to continue just because they always have. I knelt in the garden, hands in the dirt, cool soil under my fingernails. The physical work felt good, grounding, real. This garden, this house, this life, mine. The restitution payments arrived on the 15th of every month, like clockwork. $1,000. I stopped opening them with shaking hands after the 3rd month. By the 6th month, I just deposited them and moved on. By 2027, I'd be whole again, financially anyway. Jennifer completed the financial literacy course. The social worker mentioned it during one of Emma's supervised visits. 8 weeks, court approved. Jennifer's in therapy too, working 2 part-time jobs, trying to rebuild. I don't ask for details. Maybe someday I'll want to know. Not yet. Emma's visits continue. Once a month. Second Saturday, 2 hours, at the community center with a social worker present. She's 13 now, starting to understand. We don't talk about her mother. Emma's choice, the social worker says. That's okay. We talk about school instead. About her photography class. She's good, really good. About her friends. About the books she's reading. I'm saving money for Emma's college fund. The trust will cover it, but I want to contribute to grandmother to granddaughter. Direct, the way it should have been from the beginning. Thanksgiving morning, 1 year later. I woke at 6, old teaching habits die hard, and made coffee. The house was quiet, just me, the way it had been since David died, but this year felt different, better. I set the table with grandmother's china, the tiny blue flowers, David's grandfather's oak table, the same one where we'd made every major decision for 42 years. The same table where I'd spread those bank statements last November and realized my daughter had stolen from me. But today wasn't about Jennifer. Today was about the people who'd shown up, who'd stayed, who'd chosen to be here. Margaret arrived at 10 with her green bean casserole, still in the same Tupperware she'd been using for 15 years. We'd been doing this together, morning coffee, evening walks, book club Tuesdays, for so long now that I couldn't imagine my days without her. When I'd named her as my backup power of attorney, it hadn't been just a legal decision. It was acknowledgement. You're my family, the one I chose. Tom and Susan came early with cornbread. Paul and Emily brought wine. Pastor Michael and his husband David showed up right on time, carrying flowers for the table. The turkey was perfect. I didn't burn anything. My hands didn't shake when I carved. We said grace. Pastor Michael offered, I accepted, and then we ate. It wasn't the Thanksgiving I'd planned 43 years ago when Jennifer was born. It wasn't the Thanksgiving I'd imagined last year when everything was still normal, but it was mine. My house, my table, my guests, my choice. Margaret squeezed my hand during dessert. You did it, she whispered. We did it, I said. Not the family I was born into, the family I chose. 2 months after that Thanksgiving, January, I spoke at the senior center for the first time. 47 people attended. I brought handouts Paul had helped me design, warning signs of financial exploitation, questions to ask your attorney, how to monitor your accounts, red flags for power of attorney abuse. I told my story, not all of it, the parts that mattered, the parts that could help someone else avoid what I'd gone through. I kept it factual, unemotional, just the facts. 3 women approached me afterward. All had given adult children power of attorney. All had questions. One was crying. My son has been asking about selling my condo, she said. I thought I was being paranoid. I gave her Susan's card. The senior center asked me back in March, then again in May. By summer, I'd spoken 7 times, different groups, different venues, always the same message. Trust isn't the same as oversight. Family isn't the same as loyalty. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's survival. Emma's visits continued. Once a month, Saturday afternoons at the community center, 2 hours with a social worker present. She's 14 now, taller, quieter, starting to look more like Jennifer at that age, which sometimes hurt to see. We don't talk about her mother, Emma's choice. The social worker said that's healthy, that Emma needs space to process what happened without pressure from either side. I respect that. We talk about photography instead. Emma's getting serious about it. Entered a competition, won second place. She showed me the photo, a close-up of weathered hands holding a coffee cup. I thought of you when I took it, she said. I've been saving money for Emma's college fund. The trust will cover it. $300,000 waiting for her at 25. But I want to contribute too. Grandmother to granddaughter. Direct. Clean. The way it should have been, the restitution payments arrive on the 15th of every month. $1,000. Jennifer hasn't missed one yet. By 2029, she'll have paid back every penny. 55 months. 4.5 years. A long time. But fair. I don't know if I'll ever see Jennifer again outside those supervised visits. Maybe when Emma's older. Maybe when Emma decides she wants us in the same room. Maybe never. Some days I'm okay with that. Some days it hurts. Spring came again. I planted more daffodils where we used to plant tulips. Still not ready for tulips. Maybe next year. Maybe the year after. Or maybe daffodils forever. Some traditions change. That's allowed. I knelt in the garden, hands in the dirt. The soil was cool, damp from yesterday's rain. The physical work felt good. This garden, this house, this life I'd built, rebuilt on my own terms. Some days I still can't believe it happened. My own daughter. But I'm here. I'm standing in my house. That counts for something. I learned that trust isn't the same as oversight. Family isn't the same as loyalty. And asking for help isn't weakness. It's survival. If you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and someone asks for power of attorney, get an attorney first. A real one. An elder law specialist. Not your daughter's friend who dabbles in law. A professional. Check your bank statements every month. Don't wait for quarterly reports. Online banking exists for a reason. Use it. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. And remember, your home is yours. Your savings are yours. Your life is yours. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have fought back or tried to keep the peace? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. And if you know someone who might need to hear this, an elderly parent, a grandparent, a neighbor, share it. You might save them from going through what I went through. This Thanksgiving, I'll set the table again. Probably the same friends, maybe a few new ones from the senior center, but in my house, on my terms. Finally, the china is ready, the guest list is confirmed, the turkey is ordered, and this time I know exactly who belongs at my table.